And then the last category is crowdfunding, right? So
Mm,
crowdfunding is, I tell people, think of, I'm going to raise capital for my business from my next
mm,
door neighbors, right? Anybody could invest in a crowdfunding campaign. So there are multiple crowdfunding platforms on the internet that you can go to, and you basically create a campaign to raise capital for your business.
mhm,
Um, the beauty of crowdfunding is um, you can raise an unlimited amount of money with I think it's in the Obama administration, they changed the rules around crowdfunding. So now any individual can contribute up to, I believe, $1 million in one campaign.
mm,
So there are companies raising literally hundreds of millions of dollars through crowdfunding.
mm,
Crowdfunding has different sides to it. You could do an equity crowdfunding raise where you're
mhm.
giving people equity in your business. It can be a reward based crowdfunding
Yes.
thing where you may be giving them a product or service for instead of giving them part of your business. So you can there's a debt side. You can actually do a debt crowdfunding campaign as well.
Mm,
So you could take out a loan through crowdfunding. So there's that. I tell most entrepreneurs don't understand how powerful crowdfunding can be. So I always tell entrepreneurs, look at crowdfunding as a potential way to raise capital for your business. Uh,
mm.
I've been told from people who have been very successful raising capital through crowdfunding that the most successful crowdfunding campaigns have one thing that it ties them, and that is they are able to create a professional 90 to 120-second video that tugs at the
Okay,
heartstrings of investors, right?
okay.
So if you had a product or service that, hey, it's, your product or service is something that's going to contribute to eliminating cancer,
Mhm.
something like that. That would, I was just talking to an entrepreneur last week he's using DNA sequencing as a way to predict whether youth would have are prone to injuring themselves depending on particular sport they might want to play
Mm.
as a youth.
That's gonna be valuable information, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm telling him, I'm like, this is perfect for crowdfunding because I can see a 90, 120-second commercial with a child who's an athlete and talking about how this could be used to avoid him or her having some injury in playing this particular sport. That's going to tug at the heartstrings of parents,
Yeah.
even of other kids that want to play a particular sport. I said, so, that would be an ideal way to raise capital. On the downside with crowdfunding is because, again, if you think, again, you're thinking about, if I'm raising capital from my next door neighbor, does my next door neighbor have a network that they can,
Yes.
if I need funding after this initial raise of capital from crowdfunding, could they help connect me to an angel investor who might be able to fund at the next stage? Chances are no, they're not. So that would be the limitation with crowdfunding. But even then, still for that first round of funding for your business
Mm.
might be an ideal way to go.
The next thing I want to cover was stages, so that's a perfect segue.
Yeah.
But you spoke to something that I would love to be able to get, more information out about. Now, you said that there's debt crowdfunding.
Yeah.
That's not one that you hear often, or at least I haven't heard often, so I would love to be able to dig into that a little bit more. Now, I'm not gonna guess because I know what my definition of that was, so I would love for you to be able to go into that in a little more detail because I don't want that to get lost in the conversation that we're having because this may be that sweet spot for some people where they're saying, "Okay, well, some of the rest of that I wasn't gonna be able to use, but this I can actually use." And this
Right.
one is the one that's most open to most people. 'Cause I
Yeah.
know I've been part of crowdfunding based on someone having a really good idea, and then I'm looking at it going, "Okay, no, this is actually something that I want."
Right.
And that kinda goes back to wants, needs, nice to haves, guilty pleasures, things like that. If you find something that moves people and they prioritize it enough where they want it, then they may be willing to not only invest in it through crowdfunding, but they'll tell other people about it, and that's where
Yeah.
that influence and everything comes in.
Yeah.
But that aside, debt crowdfunding, I would love for you to be able to speak a little bit more about it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's going to be you're going to raise capital through a loan, right? So you're going to
Mm,
structure it versus going to the bank. You're going to tell a bank, I need this much money. I can, and they'll say, okay, well, we'll give you this much money, but we need you to be able to pay it back in this period of time, and we're going to charge this much in annual interest. So your monthly payments is going to be, X. And you've either got to be able to pay that, or as I said, have the collateral to be able
mm,
to cover that should you default on the loan. Now, if you go through crowdfunding, you can structure the terms of that loan, right?
mm.
So you could structure it because even when you go to a bank, sometimes they'll say, "Okay, well, we'll lend you $100,000, and in order for this to for you to be able to have a high
Yeah.
probability of paying it back, for the first 2 years, we're only going to charge you interest, and then we'll charge you interest and principal after year two, right?"
Okay.
So you could structure this deal. So when you're putting together your campaign, you could say, "Hey, I'm looking to raise $100,000. I can pay it back over 10 years. I can give you back 5% annual interest. But the first 2 years, 3 years, whatever, are going to be, I'm only going to pay interest on the money
Okay.
and not principal and interest." And then you put that out there on this platform to raise capital. And if people find it appealing, they're going to invest. Again, where this becomes effective is having this video that,
Pairing it
promotes
with,
your
yeah.
campaign that says, this is why I launched this business in the first place. This is the problem I'm trying to solve. And if, you're targeting people that, they've experienced this problem and they want to see this problem eradicated from the face of the earth, they might give you 50, $100,
Yeah.
$1,000 to resolve this issue. And you get enough of those people, you know, um, if you're looking to raise $100,000, you need 100 people to give you 1,000, you know, or you need 1,000 to give you 10, so, or 100,
Right.
you
Yeah.
basically, you're dictating the terms of the loan, and then that becomes part of your campaign. And at the end of the day, you know, what you got to think about is for the people that would be potentially interested in investing, is this going to be attractive enough? And what may override the attractiveness of the deal is the fact that I'm solving this particular problem. There are enough people out here that are affected by this problem that want to see this problem solved. Maybe the while I want to get my money back, that's not why I'm investing. When you look at those GoFundMe's that are successful in raising
Hmm.
the capital, what do they all typically have in common? And it's usually
It's a good
there's a
story.
story that
Yeah.
that appeals to a lot of people, right? And it's like, okay, it tugs at my heartstrings. I want to help this person solve this problem. I feel bad by anyone going through whatever this person's going through.
Yeah.
I want to help them get on the other side of this of this obstacle. And so I'm
Yeah.
happy to contribute $100, $50, $10 to help them get on the other side of this obstacle. You
Yeah,
know,
I want to be very careful about what I say next. This is something where what you've described is someone getting something on the back end.
yeah,
So if you're struggling with a GoFundMe and you're putting something out, one, take a look at your story.
right,
But two, also look at the fact that, if you're not getting traction that way, maybe switch over to the debt crowdfunding where you can tell people, listen, you'll be able to get some kind of return on that actual investment. This is an investment. This
yeah,
isn't just me with my hand out. So when you said it, that's what I was like, I'm going to wait, but I want to go back to that because I think there's a disconnect where there are a lot of people that think GoFundMe is the only way that they can do it.